Look at that picture right there. Stop,
Yeah.
Nighthawk.
Yeah.
They mocked iconography of actual saints, this atheist transvestite
Prostitute.
prostitute, and then put her up like she's an actual saint in our own church. Like, could you imagine? Just stop for a second. I hate this
It's
because it
demonic.
works every time. But like, could you imagine this being done in a mosque?
That is an
If
excellent
if
point.
if an imam saw the way people were dressed walking in his doors, he probably would have cracked the whip and kicked them out. I'm not kidding. But we have a, this priest, which you could say he's duped, whatever you want to say about him, making comments about how great it is to have the church filled with this garbage. There's a certain part of the church that is just not serious about what it believes. And it's just so, this makes me so angry. Like any serious religion would have absolutely kicked everyone out of this place and said what they were doing was hateful, deceitful, and wrong and kicked them out. But we can't even get people in our own church to be able to admit that this is wrong.
Okay, gotta highlight this great comment. We got the live chat going here on the YouTube, and Brian Gradowski nailed it. He said, "When Christ invited sinners to dinner, the sinners walk away changed. These people are trying to tend his dinner and change the teachings because the movement sees weakness in the church. They want to
They're
change.
correct.
They want to change the church. They want to change Jesus." It's like that's unbelievable.
And I think the weakness, we talked about this 2 weeks ago, I think, with Anthony Eslin's amazing article in Chronicle, but the weakness is that we in our church, we have lost the total conviction that the Eucharist is Jesus Christ. Like, if you really believed that you're sitting up in the sanctuary 20 feet away from the tabernacle holding the living God, and this starts happening down in front of you, you can't just sit there anymore, right? We have to recover this belief in the Eucharist, that Jesus is real, that we are going to face our judgment at the end of our life, and that and to be infused with the hope that God gives us the grace we need to respond in the moment. And I think that for me, it was the tragedy of watching all these cathedral employees and security guards. I'm like, guys, do you realize what's happening? And the reality was they didn't, because it was the moment. And I think Catholics have to prepare themselves for more and more of these moments to happen. Ask yourself, if you're listening and you're at Mass, what do you do if this happens at Mass with you? We saw it last Mother's Day, right? With the pro choice protesters at Catholic Masses on Mother's Day. And we told people, you have to think about, what do you do? Protect your children. Do you have extra ushers? What do you have to prepare for this, because it's going to happen more and more.
Are you centered on Jesus? That's the real question. And in
Yes,
fact, it reminds
exactly.
me of the fire at the Cathedral of Notre Dame in France when it was going up, being engulfed in flames. Those firefighters, they're Catholics, and they ran in and they secured Jesus in the tabernacle, got him out, and then they got out. Then they got out the crown of thorns, because they have a little piece of the crown of thorns actually, and they took care of those relics, and that was their second priority. And you're like, oh, look at this beautiful thing on artwork on the wall. It's like that was not, they had to take care of Jesus first. They were centered on him, and
Yeah.
that's the way when tragedy strikes, whether a natural cause, whether it's terrorism, which probably was, by the way, Paris, or this, where they organized an intentional effort to smear, in our faces. We need to be centered on Jesus in our response too. Yeah. I mean, maybe the first thing that priest should have done is, as you say, Erica, turn around, look at the tabernacle, get on your knees, pray, then stand up, turn around, grab the microphone, and say, "It's time for you to leave now." That would have been wonderful.
We need to offer our reparations for these kind of activities for these people. People have made conversions, and we need to offer reparation because what's done is evil. Um, but that being said, and which, like, I think I've said plenty of this, like, that does not mean we need to lay over when God is being mocked.
Amen.
Right.
So
Amen.
this is not never acceptable under any context. Pray for the souls of these people. But hopefully this is a reminder that, like, we've moved into a new era, and we have been in a new era for 3+ years now, probably since COVID, where we have enemies at the gates. We have people that want to desecrate our sacred spaces, either through misdirection and trickery or by outright violence. I mean, we're over 300+ churches that have been attacked now. And we have, like, instigators trying to get into our sacred spaces and do things like this. until we accept that's our reality, this kind of stuff is going to keep happening. But I just hope everyone listening, we are in a new time. This is not 2000s again where you're like, people just want to love who they want to love, whatever. Like, call the enemy for what it is. And it's time to start battening the hatches, because I never want to see something like this happen ever again.